Hello, everyone. Welcome to the IERLab Podcast. I'm Walter Lee, and today we explore the world of white mummy bloggers raising mixed heritage children in China and how their everyday sharanting, it's like share and parenting, I guess, on Douyin becomes a stage for negotiating race, gender, nationhood, and identity. Through their curated parenting performances, we look at how empowerment and commodification collide in the attention economy of transnational family life. And to dig deeper, we have Xinxin Jiang with us, who wrote the piece on negotiating gender, race, and nationhood in parenting in Douyin, white mummy bloggers in Chinese foreign marriages in China. So welcome, Xinxin.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited about it.
I'm so excited to have you. And we're going to just jump straight into it because there is so much I want to know. And when
hmm
white mummy bloggers, this is quite an interesting term to me as well, white mummy bloggers, use Douyin or to share their mixed heritage family lives, how much of what we see reflects genuine cultural negotiation, which is quite an interesting sort of topic to talk about when there are so many mixed national couples now, and how much is shaped by pressures and rewards of China's attention economy?
Yeah, so let me give you a little bit of context when I was writing this piece. So it's actually coming from another bigger project I actually finished already. I was trying to write about white wives in Chinese foreign marriages
Hmm.
who live in China and who trying to showcase their wife and husband relationship, their family life, their
Hmm.
community life. So when later I was invited to write something about what mommy bloggers, then I thought maybe, yeah, I should focus more on how these white wives are also mommies and how they try to document and share their mixed blood children's life. So that's the kind of where I got this project. But to answer your question, I think their content is definitely a blend of both genuine cultural negotiation and also sort of trying strategic sharing because this is posted on the Chinese platform Douyin. So it has to in line with the China's platform ecosystem. So first of all, I think they do try to negotiate the real parenting norms in everyday family life. For example, some of their snapshots kind of recorded how the mother play with the child, take care of the child. I think these moments are real because these are what's happening every day. And also, they want to highlight their mixed heritage of their children. This is
Hmm.
kind of very unique and very different from other monoethnic Chinese children. So this is also very real because the general Chinese audience would not have more exposure to how like mixed blood children are raised in the family. So I do think there's some genuine culture negotiation in that. And also because these family live in China, most of them live in China, although they travel sometimes back to their home country. I
Hmm.
think they do have this awareness of maintain their like Chinese nationality for Chinese audience. And of course, most of the contents are highly edited. Just remember when you want to post something, you want the best angle of your face or the
Right.
best story narrative. So I do think these contests are highly edited and polished and maybe staged because some of the content later you could see that at the very first beginning they want more creativity in showing their family life, but as they growing more following, I think their content sort of become a product placement. So that part you would definitely see that their content is in line with this highly commercialized driven platform. So this is part of the culture negotiation and also the highly edited version of their content. But then another thing I think is very important to know that, as I mentioned previously, this is a Chinese platform. Douyin is predominant in use in China, although in overseas you can still use some access to
Mm-hmm.
get in. But then I'm not sure the also posted on TikTok, the more international version of it. But
Mm.
as they are posting on Douyin, they know that they should follow the local, for example, the policies.
Mm.
So a lot of audience, I think they are willing to see how their content are in line with this culture pride of Chineseness and how, the white mommy is trying to adapt into the Chinese local culture, the family. So I think the audience are waiting to see that. And that is definitely comes from the pressure of, getting more following or be in line with the audience expectation. So
Mm.
that said, I do think there's a genuine the blend of the genuine negotiation and also sometimes staged and sometimes highly edited version of that.
Yes, there is a interesting thing in Korea, which is where I'm based at the moment, where there are a lot of biracial couples who have
Mhm.
become big, let's say, social media stars. But usually it would be like a foreign male and a Korean female. But there are also the foreign females and the Korean males as well. There is a lot of interest behind that, but it was quite interesting that I found that specifically that there is a very big population that have interest in the white mother situation. In what ways does shifting trans locational positionality of white mothers on Douyin challenge or reinforce existing cultural and racial hierarchies in both their home and their host societies?
Yes. Okay. So in the article, I actually used the theory, which is called translocational positionality. This is a theory developed by a sociologist based in England, I believe, in Britain, in the UK, I believe. So I was trying to use this concept to understand how white mother's identity, positionality, like being white, being a migrant in China and also being a female
Hmm.
uh, intersect to influence how they adapt into the Chinese culture and Chinese family. So I think to answer this question, in China, I do think their content or their whatever they posted on Douyin challenge the existing cultural racial hierarchy. So, for example, they were trying to show that how the white mother challenging the patriarchal norms in Chinese family structure by, using some of those Western parenting practice versus, in the Chinese society, a lot of Chinese mom will still stick to this sort of traditional parenting. So, for example, uh, I use the example of the Russian mother, Natasha,
Hmm.
who allows his kid to crawl on the floor outside
Hmm.
because in Chinese culture, let a young kid crawl on the ground is it's not hygienic. It's like
Hmm.
not supposed to be culturally acceptable. So, but
Hmm.
this Russian mother allows his son to do that. Of course, her mother-in-law criticizes this behavior, both the kid and the mother. But
Hmm.
then Natasha just ignored that. So
Hmm.
this kind of interaction definitely shows that the foreign mother, the white mother, is challenging sort of the patriarchal norms in the Chinese family.
Hmm.
Um, the second thing, how also they negotiate their children's belonging in China. This is very interesting. So also I used the example in the third section. I used the example of the um, Ukraine wife, Genia, who document their children obtaining the Chinese ID. So I think they're trying to challenge this idea of national boundary and
Mm-hmm.
trying to, I think this is very interesting, trying to show that their mixed blood kid is actually Chinese. So
Mm,
by doing this, they're trying to extend the Chineseness, which is very interesting through the legal and emotional belonging. This is how they challenge the culture and racial hierarchy in China. At the same time, I think these mothers also reinforce some of the, stereotypes. For example, I think in the second example, I used the Georgian mother who tries to show her daughter's Eurasian beauty,
mm-hmm.
trying to show that, okay, my kid is different because he has this, different facial features such as the fair skin, the light eyes, and also they smartly dress their children in Chinese Hanfu, the traditional attire.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of like Chinese culture symbol. So I think by doing this, I do think the mother, on the one hand, reinforce the racialized beauty hierarchy. And
Mm-hmm.
another thing I think the mothers are trying to reinforce is also this gender hierarchy, because all the cases that I analyzed, including some other cases that I didn't use in this article, I see that the mothers still positioned as the primary caregivers,
Mm-hmm.
which reinforce the idea that motherhood is still women's central role. So this is
Yeah.
also how their narratives reproduce the gender hierarchy. In terms of how this hierarchy in their home society are negotiated, I think this is very interesting because on the one hand, they try to reinforce this Western culture superiority. For example, when they show the Western parenting practice,
Mm.
um, it led audience, at least I would think, to believe that the Western parenting ideology is more advanced. This is
Mm.
actually echoed by the audience who try to praise their use of the Western parenting ideology. So, in that way, I think maybe the showing of that is slightly prioritize the Western parenting ideology than the Chinese traditional parenting style. One last thing I think is that I think the showing of their lives in China, this Western, assumption of migration in general, a lot of Western women or white women would tend to, move to global north, but they are moving to China. So I think their migration flows and power move only from global south to global north. So this is a kind of change in that migration pattern. So I do think on different levels, the showing or their narrative in their videos tries to both challenging and reinforce Chinese culture, social, racial hierarchy. At the same time, we can also see from the video that their hierarchy in their home society are also negotiated.
Mm. This sounds like it can be somewhat controversial topic at some times where
Yes,
there's a lot
I
of divide between Eastern and Western culture, and sometimes, which one is more appropriate or which one is not considered appropriate, which is, in my opinion, quite interesting. I like to I do like when there is a very good debate in between those sorts of subjects. But actually, talking about terms, now you have a glossary of terms for different kinds of influences in your journal. Can you maybe explain which ones you find the most interesting or the public maybe should know?
Okay, that's a very good question to begin, such as researching in this area. When I first started to research in this area, I found there are quite confusing terms.
Mm-hmm.
So I did some research and then I actually traced back to the very beginning of the term, which is called micro celebrity. It's
Mm-hmm.
now widely used in academia. So it's actually come from a scholar in the United States when her name is Teresa Senft. In 20, 2008, she published her book based on her ethnographic observation of the cam girl in the US.
Mm-hmm.
So I think according to her definition, micro celebrity refers to those who not only gain fame through self-performance, uh, to their video, by employing digital media technology. I think that's one of the first concepts. So then later we have different terms like influencer, which is now widely used. And a lot of scholars, such as Professor Christopher D, mentioned about. So I think an influencer is a further explanation of micro celebrity because I believe it's a specific type of micro celebrity. They possess the power to affect the purchasing decision among their followers.
Mm.
Different from micro celebrity who develop in the early stage of using the camera, the video. I think influencer is more grounded in the social media landscape to having this purchasing decision among their follower to attract followings.
Mm.
Then there's a third term, which I believe is more neutral and more inclusive, which is vlogger or blogger. I believe they come from blog and the vlog, trying to just record, the personal lives and everything of everyday observation. So I believe this term is neutral in the sense that a lot of people started to vlog their lives, but they have not yet
Mm.
develop into, influencer who has a lot of following. So I would
Mm.
definitely think this is another broad term.
Mm.
The last term I think is more specific, grounded in more specific context. It's 网红,
Mm.
which in Chinese it means internet famous.
Mm.
Sort of like, the Chinese way to say internet celebrity.
Mm.
I think Wang Hong is more in general, a general term in the Chinese context to include all different type of vloggers such as lifestyle, dancer, comedian, and also this transnational vloggers. So I do think this is very specific in Chinese context. I'm sure in other, outside of Chinese context, in other Asian countries or even global context, I do think they would have their own, terms to describe this phenomenon. I would
Mm.
be excited to read some of those, but unfortunately, I haven't not yet.
For Korea as well, there are a lot of different words for different genres of influencer. Mainly, I think these days a lot of people are considered influencers rather than internet celebrities
Mhm.
s- something around that lines because I think anyone that has above I would say maybe 50,000 followers in some context, doesn't matter where you are, that would call themselves influencers. But these days, it's pretty hard to tell who is considered an influencer, who's not, because some people have no influence and some people do have influence. But it is quite interesting. But before we go, I've got one more question for you. How do white mummy bloggers' public efforts to secure and showcase Chinese citizenship for their mixed blood children reveal the intersections of parental agency, national identity, and global inequalities in citizenship rights?
Okay, I think this question is a good summary of what I've written about in the article. So to just to point out, first, I think the parental agency is definitely exercised through this strategic engagement with China's legal and culture systems. As I mentioned previously, I think these vloggers, the white mommy vloggers, they are aware of, this kind of video will be posted on Douyin in the Chinese context.
Hmm.
So I think they do have this strategic agency, for example, to document the interesting moments and to show to the public narratives, uh, specifically focusing on their children who is not quite the same as other mono-ethnic Chinese children. So this is definitely kind of performative agency. And also, as they are also migrants. So that sometimes some of these cases that I studied, the travel to China and sometimes to their home country, we would see this that they're kind of navigating this immigration system very well. So I do think there's also this strategic agency as well. The second thing that I want to mention is the national identity. I think a lot of time these white mommy vloggers trying to affirm their children's successful assimilation into Chinese society. For example, as most of them live in China, their children can speak very good Mandarin, and
Hmm.
some are even forget their mother tongue, the mother tongue of the mother. So that's funny thing. I think a lot of nationalistic audience would like that because we'll see how these mixed blood children are well assimilated into the Chinese culture. Chinese culture is very powerful.
Mm,
Uh, just to change this mixed blood children into like purely Chinese children.
mm,
And also, I think on the other hand, they're downplaying their children's foreignness. This is actually a common strategy among a lot of migrant influencers in China. I actually wrote about this in
mm,
another piece, writing about the Chinese, mostly Chinese mom and the foreign dad, white dad. So I think this sort of highlighting Chineseness and downplaying their foreignness is a great strategy to cater to the Chinese audience. If, for example, they highlight their foreignness, I don't think that can be, get through the censorship.
yeah.
Um, and also, it doesn't make any sense because, one of their goal is to attract as much following as they can. If audience see, how they highlight their foreigners, audience would be suspicious, maybe, stop following them. This is one of the strategies. And the last point I think is very interesting is this global inequality about, who trying to embrace the Chinese citizenship or who try to avoid it. Some of the examples that I've observed in the other larger project that I've done, I think those from post-Soviet countries like Russia, Ukraine, they tend to leave with their husband, uh, not necessarily permanently, but like for a long time, at
Mm,
least for the time that I started the project till now, they're still in China, and
mm,
their children goes to Chinese local school, and all their family lives in a Chinese style.
mhm.
Versus those from Western countries. I did not use a lot of examples in this paper, but I did discuss it in another one. I see that the wives from the Western countries, um, a majority of them choose to give birth to their children when necessary.
Mm,
And some of them even consider moving back to the Western country when
mm.
the child grow older just to receive, the Western education. So I definitely think there is a sort of dynamic of saying, who the to whom the Chinese citizenship is more important.
I think this is a very good topic to debate about, and I do think that you've raised some interesting insights into having but these children that are both of different nationalities, and then also or highlighting, the inequalities, also the national identity. I think this is something that a lot of people are interested in. Hopefully, we can get you on again sometime in the future, but is there anything you would like to promote before we leave today? Because it has been a very interesting conversation indeed.
Thank you. So the reason that I wrote this piece of paper, as I talked in the beginning, is sort of from my larger project discussing the white wives. The reason why I'm focusing on parent, sharenting, white mothers sharenting strategy is also relevant to how I started my academic journey. So the first ever publication I was trying to discuss a parenting television show in China. It's called "Where Are You Go? Are We Going, Dad?" It's actually imported from South Korea.
Yes, yes,
It's a
yes. I know that one.
yes, you know that?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's huge success, but that was like, 10 years ago. It's pretty old. So starting there, I started focusing on, parenting and social media. And now I'm a mom of a 6-year-old. I do get to know a lot of hands-on experience of parenting. So I think definitely in the future, I would focus more on the social media representation of parenting and also the how the children are represented in the social media landscape. But one thing I might want to continue on this line of research is because I discuss a lot of white mom and Chinese mom, but I know there are also quite a number of Black mom representation on social media. I think there are quite a few academic discussion on that, but I would be interested in looking at how, these moms, mostly from Africa, coming
Mm.
to China, how they raised their, Black Chinese mixed blood children and how audience would respond to that. So I think
Mm.
definitely I would like to develop this into, a wider scenario.
Yes, I think that also would be quite interesting, especially with it not being as common as, let's say, white mummy bloggers as to, let's say, African background mother bloggers as well. I think that it's very rare to see in Korea. It does happen, of course, but it is quite rare to see as well in other Asian countries, it seems. But
Mhm.
anyway, thank you very much for today, and thank you for our listeners for listening to the IER Lab podcast. Once again, I'd like to thank our guest today, Xinxin.
Yeah, thank you. I had a great time.
This has been Walter Lee. Thank you again, listeners, and you may click on your next adventure now.